Whales, majestic creatures, symbols of intelligence, poetry, and international disputes. Recently, the name Paul Watson has surfaced again, a familiar story, but with a few updates. Let's take a look. Paul Watson, founder of Sea Shepherd, known for his unconventional activism. Japan, historically involved in whaling, setting cultural heritage and scientific research. Two opposing views meeting once again in a debate that has been anything but quiet. Kate, whale meat played a role in Japan's food security, particularly after World War II, but they didn't get an Arab. Consumption has declined, but the practice remains, supported by legal and political structures. Meanwhile, anti-whaling activism has intensified, sometimes taking the form of direct confrontation on the high seas. An interesting contrast. One side argues from the perspective of law and sovereignty, the other from ethics and conservation. We could have guessed that wouldn't end in a peaceful discussion. International agreements, always a great source of clarity, or in this case, strategic ambiguity. Take the International Whaling Commission. Established in 1946 to regulate whaling, it evolved into a de facto anti-whaling body. Japan, after years of unsuccessful attempts to negotiate a return to regulated commercial whaling, left it in 2019. A simple conclusion. If the rules don't allow participation, changing the game entirely remains an option. Then, there is the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. Quicker. Japan maintains that whaling within its exclusive economic zone falls under national jurisdiction. A fair argument, considering many countries invoke sovereignty when it suits their interests. Consistency, after all, is an overrated virtue in international politics. And, of course, the famous scientific research whaling. Under Article 8 in the IWC, Japan conducted research whaling for years. Critics pointed out that research often coincided with commercial sale of whale meat. But if a legal loophole exists and remains functional for decades, can it still be called a loophole? Or back to the present. Paul Watson and Sea Shepherd. Now for their direct action approach. Spent years disrupting Japanese whaling fleets. However, in 2017, Sea Shepherd announced it will no longer pursue Japanese vessels. The reason? Increased countermeasure, military-grade tracking, surveillance, and legal pressure. Turns out the IC can get quite bureaucratic. And yet, Watson is back. The Japanese stance: these activities are conducted within the framework of national law and international agreements. If objection exists, the proper channels remain available. A carefully phrased way of saying, this argument has been made before.
Get done.
So now, what do we do? Japanese assets legal and cultural legitimacy. Opponents appeal to ethics and conservation. The debate continues, unchanged in substance, yet ever relevant in diplomatic and activist circles. In the end, convincing Japan to abandon whaling entirely may prove as likely as convincing activists to stop opposing it. A balance of forces maintained by legal texts, strategic interest, and, on occasion, well-placed rhetoric.